No smartphone privacy app. Many people seem to think that there's some sort of app that you can install on your smartphone, your iPhone or your Android phone, that can stop the government, these people, from spying on you and collecting information on you. That's almost certainly not true. There is no smartphone privacy app. And the reason for this is that there's almost certainly backdoors in the popular smartphones like the Apple iPhone and the many Android phones. This would be in the actual hardware, the chips, or the firmware, the very low-level software which is underneath the operating system, underneath iOS on the iPhone, underneath Android, even the lowest levels of Android on the Android phones or on other devices. There are very likely such backdoors on personal computers and many other devices. What a backdoor allows the government to do is to come in, bypass the passwords, all of the protection, and gain access to what's going on the phone or the other device, to read files, to monitor keyboard input, or in the case of phones, the multi-touch, the touchscreen input. That's what they're probably there for. They're ostensibly justified for national security reasons, to fight crime, to fight terrorism, and increasingly in the last several months, to fight the COVID pandemic, tracking and tracing people ostensibly to prevent the spread of the disease. This has been going on in some form for a very long time, and I'm going to refer to it as the Total Information Awareness Program, which is what it was called a long time ago, although of course they ditched such a scary name. This is the scary original logo, which was also discontinued because it freaked a lot of people out. Maybe it was intended to freak people out. They submerged but continued and evolved into the program that Edward Snowden exposed. The program is probably much more larger and extensive than anything that Snowden disclosed. And one of the things in it is there are very, very likely backdoors in all of these commonly used devices, such as the iPhone and the Android phones. It's a little known fact that the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency funded the development of the multi-touch technology at Fingerworks, which was acquired by Apple, both for its software and for a small Fingerworks development team, which became the multi-touch firmware group, a tiny group inside of Apple. Here's an article in Quartz on it. This is the same basic article at Yahoo Finance discussing the funding of Fingerworks in the early 2000s by the CIA prior to its acquisition by Apple in 2005. And recall that the iPhone came out in 2007. Recently, just last month in December of 2020, the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, sued the FBI about their mysterious iPhone and other smartphone breaking capabilities, as in many cases they appear to be able to reach inside of the phones, even though, for example, Apple claims that they don't allow that to happen and that they've resisted government pressure. You can draw what conclusions you like. It's also a little-known fact that the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency was an early customer of Steve Jobs' Next Computer Company, acquiring many Next computers in his mostly unsuccessful company that was acquired by Apple when he returned to control Apple. Although the Next computers largely died, the hardware, the software became the basis of Mac OS, and many people from Next Computer became top people at Apple under Steve Jobs when he returned. Here's a screenshot of the article in Wired about this book, Steve Jobs, The Next Big Thing, which came out in 1993, which discusses Next Computer's relationship with the CIA and other spooks back then. It's been going on for a long time. So very likely, and I would say it's almost certain, there are these types of backdoors justified by the war on terror and other excuses. Nonetheless, these low-level smartphone backdoors, if they exist, are very, very risky, because a huge fraction of the human race and the vast majority of influential, powerful people are using smartphones, often carelessly. They're tempting for abuse, and almost certainly are being badly abused by the small cadre of intelligence officials with access to the system. The most likely abuse is mass, global-scale blackmail and psychological manipulation for the acquisition of power, the sort of thing that the late and former FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover was reputed to have engaged in with much lower technology back in his time. as the case of former New York Governor Eliot Spitzer, who actually contacted and hired an online prostitution service, illustrates many powerful people are remarkably careless with electronic communications and would therefore be subject to manipulation or blackmail by anyone with access to this system. Spitzer, of course, was forced to resign as governor of New York after the situation was disclosed by, of course, the security services, the FBI, and others. These backdoors, if they exist, are a high-value target for the intelligence services of various nations such as Russia and China, as well as organized criminal gangs, terrorists, and other groups. They would also be vulnerable to technological surprise. For example, if someone were to learn how to crack the, I would say, public key cryptography system that they may well use, or some other cryptography system that's involved, which is very likely, that person, group, organization, nation, whoever they might be able to take over the entire system. And remember, people who are blackmailing people can be blackmailed because they're blackmailers. It's a very, very dangerous thing if it exists, and it's almost certain it does exist. So what can you do to protect your privacy? Probably don't want the government to know everywhere you go, everything you do. That's become increasingly difficult in no small measure because of the very high use of smartphones. The reality is there is not an app, there is not some software you can download from the Google Play Store or somewhere and make your smartphone safe and secure. The government or anyone who gets access to this system can get access to it and learn all about you, follow you, manipulate you, and if you have something really, really to hide, blackmail you. The practical options at present are simply to stop using the smartphones entirely, not necessarily a bad idea. The fact is, most of the things you need to do can be done in your home or at an office or some other location on a desktop computer or a laptop computer. And laptop computers can also be put in Faraday bags, as I'll discuss briefly, radio-proof cases like smartphones. Now, they also probably have backdoors in them, so they should be treated very carefully as well. But the point of doing this is to shift away from depending on a smartphone that you have with you. In the current COVID environment, people aren't traveling very much, so they don't really need the phones. And I'm not going to discuss the issues with the security of the desktop computers and laptop computers, although they're also significant. If you don't want to completely stop using a phone, which may be difficult for various reasons, you might want to have it for an emergency, to call an ambulance, to call 911. You can keep it in a sealed radio-proof case, sometimes known as a Faraday bag, for those emergencies or for very special situations where you really, really have to use it. Such cases are currently available for purchase at Amazon and many other sources. You can also use hermetically sealed metal food containers. I'll show an example of this, a candy container. Candy is often marketed in these sealed containers, which can be hermetically sealed. Some games and some other products that are widely available are also marketed in such metal containers. You just put your phone in airplane mode, put it to sleep. You don't turn it off. Put it inside of the metal case and seal it. Same way with these other cases. You can even make these cases cheaply using commonly available materials, aluminum foil, painter's tape, or some other types of tape, a ruler, and a pair of scissors. So this is an example of a commercial case. It's about $20. I have a couple of them. And you can put your phone in here. What you want to do is put the phone in airplane mode, don't turn it off, and then put it inside the case. You want it in airplane mode so it doesn't try to talk to the network, in which case it'll run down its battery quickly. And the phones will function in airplane mode inside these cases for days, typically today, even a week. They do run down, so you have to keep charging them occasionally. The point is, you open the case up, you take it out, you can quickly take it out of airplane mode and start talking to someone, if you have to call 911, for example. If you turn the phone off, then it takes quite a while to boot it back up and turn it on, so it's better to leave it in airplane mode. This is an example of a candy product, and this is the case for it, a metal container. It's perfectly sealed. You can put your phone inside of it, close it, and it will act as a Faraday cage. Very cheap. These can be purchased at many stores. And there are many other examples of foods and sometimes games, other products that are in these types of cases. And finally, if you're willing to put some time in, you can very cheaply make your own case without being able to, or if you couldn't get one from Amazon or you don't want people to know you have such a thing, you can fold up some aluminum foil, tape it together, and give it a tape coating, which protects it from falling apart. Aluminum foil is very fragile. More information on these options can be found here. This is an hour-long video where I show in detail how to make one of these spy-proof cases from household materials, from painter's tape, from aluminum foil, scissors, ruler, and a couple of other things are each shown. And here is an earlier video I did, which is about the commercial cases and about these food containers, and a little bit of other details as well. I also have here a couple of links. This is to an example, the one that I showed, of a commercial Faraday product. Now, I'm not getting any kind of compensation from them. I've been happy with this product, so I'm glad to give a link to it. These things tend to be a bit large, so you may want to get something like a backpack. This is a lightweight backpack that you can take with you, or a fanny pack or something like that. It may be a little impractical in some cases to put it in your, for example, jacket or something like that, so you may want to carry it in a backpack or something like that. The reason, of course, is that you want to have the phone available in an emergency if you need to call 911, get an ambulance, or perhaps certain other special situations. While in general, you don't want people to know where, the government to know where you are, or monitoring you, or tracking you, any of that kind of stuff, which you can do with these cases. So that's it, but please keep in mind, you may think you can get some software, some app you can install on your phone. Yes, that might stop a teenage hacker. It might stop some criminals. It will not stop the government from monitoring you, not the high levels of the government, not the Total Information Awareness Program. Very, very likely they can easily get in and watch you. So the only way to get around that is either don't have the phone or seal it up and only use it in very special circumstances. Our previous videos and articles on the contradictory numbers on the CDC website have repeatedly been censored by a range of social media services, such as LinkedIn here. This was a few weeks ago. This is the actual post that was censored. We've run into this with a number of different platforms. It's rather concerning, especially considering that these posts are pointing out contradictory data on the official CDC websites and documents. Apparently, it is a real threat to the society, democracy, human lives to point out obvious, gross discrepancies on government websites. You can bypass this censorship with our censored search website and service, which you can reach at censored-search.net or censored-search.com or censored-search.org. We may add additional names later, but those are the names right now. It's censored-search. Find the answers to your problems censored by advertisers and other powerful interests. It is free. We have a free version, which ranks the search results according to popularity. That is how many other websites link to the page, the search result. You can also pay and get more control and transparency into the algorithms. You can get access to more advanced artificial intelligence algorithms that look through the censored content and try to identify pages that are censored because they contain factual, true information, and separate those out from other ones which are not so useful. A popularity contest cannot always do that correctly, and popularity contests can be manipulated in various ways. Thus, check out censoredsearch.com, censored-search.net, censored-search.org. This concludes this video presentation. If you like this video, please click like. Please click subscribe and the notification bell if you would like to receive more content from us. You can avoid internet censorship by subscribing directly to our RSS news feed. Please consider sharing the link by email and on your website or blog, in addition to liking, upvoting, or sharing on increasingly censored, advertising beholden, big company social media. We have encountered such censorship. Mathematical software is developing algorithms and software to automate data analysis, reducing the risks of costly errors and increasing the predictive power of the results. You can support our work financially by subscribing on our Patreon page, https:// www.patreon.com/mathsoft, or scanning the QR code in the lower right corner.